All right, there are a whole lot of videos out there extolling the virtues of becoming an S-corp. You've probably watched several or have read some articles about it, so I'm not going to try to expand on the information that's already out there, but what I'm going to do is try to point you to a very nice, simple payroll tax savings calculator that I like to point people to who are hitting that growth stage and starting to make some good money and are thinking about ways to save on taxes on their income. So switching from an LLC to an S-corp could potentially be a tax saving strategy for you. So let me show you this free little calculator so you can make a choice for yourself. Let's dive in. So this entire video is going to walk you through this article from the Gusto website. It's going to be linked below. It has a handy Google Sheet calculator. I like it because it's simple. So you can read the whole article and you can come down here and play around with these figures. You're going to make a copy of it and it is going to look like this. This resource is linked below. And we are going to get to this calculator and play around with these numbers, but please keep listening for just a few more minutes because I've got some important things to explain, and I'm going to talk through the pros and cons of doing this strategy. My goal is to take this article and give you some details that maybe you haven't thought about, and we're going to play with this calculator at the end, so stick with me. So first, how does becoming an S-corp save you on taxes? Well, it's all based on the fact that when you become an S-corp, you're required to pay yourself a reasonable salary. And when you do that, the portion of the payroll taxes that the business pays for your payroll is a business expense. These are the taxes like Social Security and Medicare, where the employee pays one portion and the employer has to pay the other half. So you get the additional business expense for the payroll taxes that the employer has to pay. The article does a really great job at walking through this, and you can always reach out if you have any questions. So let's talk about some of the benefits. What are some of the benefits of making that S-corp election and being taxed as an S-corp? So you've probably already heard that you can save on taxes. So that's a given, but I think there are others. Some of the benefits that I see are that you're paying your taxes with every single paycheck. That really helps you manage your personal cash flow because you don't have to come up with a big chunk of change every quarter, ideally when you're paying your quarterly estimated tax payments, or you don't have to come up with a really, really big chunk of change when you file your return in the spring if you haven't been making those payments. Now, you still might owe on your taxes even if you become an S-corp, depending on your total tax situation, but you will at least have been for sure paying some into the system. Another hidden benefit, I think, of this is that it also might make you more likely to hire because you've already done the legwork of getting one person on payroll yourself. So why not set that goal of getting that next employee? This is mostly a mindset thing, but running payroll on yourself is kind of a varsity business move. And with most things in business, once you've done something once, it's usually easier to do it again. So you can add another person to payroll because you've proven that you can do this. And another thing that makes that helps is that it will help with your own personal budgeting, and it'll make it easier because you're back to having that regular, dependable salary. You can take additional distributions as you continue to succeed and you want to extract those earnings from the company in a tax-advantaged way. I typically recommend that you do this quarterly, but you can take out those distributions really whenever you want. And additionally, because I have a set paycheck now, it was really easy to set up an automatic draft to my church for our tithe once I started to take a salary as an S-corp. I have a full video about how I tithe in case you're interested in that. So what are some cons of becoming an S-corp? So one big con of becoming an S-corp is wondering whether you really should become one. In general, I think you need to be bringing in about at least $80K, but this is just one component of your entire tax situation. So you really do need to consult with a tax professional who can advise you at what level of income you need to be making to make this worth it, because it's extra work. And extra money. But be very cautious of anyone who tells you a number that's much lower than that. I feel pretty good about that number. There are also tangible costs related to more complex tax filings and payroll software and bookkeeping. So your tax preparer is going to raise your prices once you tell them that you're an S-corp. And they might even help you become an S-corp, but that tax filing for your business taxes is going to cost more than the Schedule C that you probably have been filing. And you're going to have payroll costs. For example, I use Gusto I personally use it and I use it on my clients. Their prices are around $50 a month for full service payroll for one employee. So that's what's going to cost you if you're not running payroll on anybody else. Now, if you're already using payroll because you have employees, well, then the marginal cost of adding yourself is just going to be a few bucks a month because you're already paying your payroll provider for the basic setup and you would just be an additional employee. By the way, if you want to do this and you need to start running payroll, I do use Gusto. I have a referral link below as they're my preferred payroll provider. And using that link below gets you a $100 Visa gift card, I believe. There are other payroll providers, though. I don't really care who you use, except that you need to look for something called full service payroll. Don't balk at the price. They're going to save you so much time that it'll be worth it. They will do everything for you. So make sure you're getting a full service payroll provider. I also have a tutorial about how to get your Gusto connected to your FreshBooks that is linked below, or you can reach out for help. So that's going to be one of the steps that you have to take. One of these costs that you're going to bear is the cost of managing this properly. So another con is that you really have to have the ongoing cash flow to pay yourself. So sure, you can adjust your salary or your payroll run every time you need to run payroll based on how much cash you have if it's fluctuating throughout the year. But one of the things that I like best about Gusto, and I'm sure other payroll softwares do this too, is the auto run feature. And when you have a set salary, you can pick like twice a month or once a month to get paid, and it's going to pay your salary without you having to do a thing. I mean, not a thing. And that if you're changing it because you might not have enough cash flow to like say that you're making 80 grand a year and have it pay you every twice a month based on that salary, you're going to have to go in and run payroll for a different amount each time, or maybe stop running a payroll one time. So I picked a reasonable salary that I knew that my cash flow could cover, and I always keep a minimum buffer in my checking account, so I know I'm not having to have that burden of really running payroll on myself and checking that I have the cash or making adjustments if I don't. All right, let's experiment with this calculator. Hey, but before we do, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd sure be honored if you subscribed. All right, so here is the calculator. Right now it's saying that there is a $100,000 annual revenue. For the sole prop, there's $30,000 of expenses. They raised it by $5,000 over here on the business expenses. The reason they probably did that is to account for payroll, bookkeeping, payroll software, bookkeeping, and additional tax compliance. I don't know that it necessarily will cost you an extra $5,000. It may, but it's good to at least think that there will be additional costs. So this is an example of a $40,000 salary. And you can run through this. So this is the default numbers, and this person's payroll tax savings by being an S-corp, even with the additional expenses of the compliance with all the S-corp, bookkeeping and payroll and stuff, was $3.3 thousand. So we can mess with this a bit. Let's make it 150. Now, what should we change? Maybe your business expenses stay the same. Maybe we don't need to change that. Probably we should be raising the salary though. So if we don't raise the salary, it's saying that the savings are $10,400. But if you're making annual revenue of 150, maybe we should be going a little higher. I mean, it depends on what industry you're in and all that. But if we changed it to 60, okay, the savings drop down to $7.3 thousand. But that's the tax savings that you're going to have by being an S-corp, because you get these business deductions and your net income is much lower because you have a salary in there and you have all these additional taxes in there. And your net income being lower is nothing to be scared of if as long as that is because the salary is the expense and it's going to you anyway. All right, so are you ready to become an S-corp? Huh? Well, don't be afraid to reach out. Feel free to ask questions below. My contact info is also in the description of this video if you need help. I'm Kate Josephine Johnson, and I help businesses build their business legacy.